Good evening, everyone. Tonight we have a special guest in the house to celebrate Caribbean Heritage Month. We had the opportunity to kick off Caribbean Heritage Month with Elizabeth Lady Montano, a great interview done by Pat Pacino. And today it's my turn to carry the baton and feature one of our greats. Like we said, it's always good to tell our stories and don't let any other people tell our stories because they shape the narrative however they want. Tropical Fed has created this platform every June to feature Caribbean American authors and Caribbean American authors of descent. And today we have Ms. Shermain Charles, who's an author coming to us live from the beautiful island of Antigua. And I believe she originated from the nature island of Dominica. So welcome, Miss Shermain. Tell us a little about yourself before we get into the interview.
Well, thank you very much for having me, for inviting me to such a forum. I am really, really privileged and I appreciate it. As you correctly said, I am from the nature isle of Dominica, but I have been living in Antigua and Barbuda for about the better part of 6 years. I moved to Antigua and Barbuda to take on a new job in the same field, really, but a new job, a new position. So I am currently a news producer and a senior journalist at the Observer Radio in Antigua. Prior to that, I was the news editor at Kyrie FM back in Dominica. I am 41, if you need to know my age. I don't know if that is important to the interview, but, and as you rightfully said, I am a young aspiring author.
Okay, so let's start with your career and how that transitioned into a book. So you're a journalist, and journalist deals with facts and not fiction. But your
Right.
novel seems to be a combination of fiction
Mm-hmm.
and reality. Um, how did you do that transition, or was that journalism? Oh, I got to insert some real life facts in there.
Well, as
Explain
you
to me
rightly
that struggle in writing the book.
Well, I don't know. I think I wrote that book during the pandemic. I think I had a lot was going on. COVID was going on. I was also dealing with some personal issues, and we were working from home. So you find that you have more time. We were under lockdown, and whenever I go through stuff, I write. I mean, I basically pen down everything that I'm thinking. And I remember, I went back to my childhood days and I remember an incident that happened as a teenage girl in high school. And I started to write about it. And then I started to write about it and I just kept writing about it. And before I knew it, it was a novel.
Okay. And what was that incident?
Well, it was a mixture of peer pressure, of maybe having a low self esteem, the sort of stuff that young women go through at 17 in high school trying to fit in. And the novel is a romance novel, really, but it has a lot to do with how young people portray themselves, the way that they look at themselves, wanting to fit in by doing everything that they see their girlfriends would do or the average high schooler would do. And so the novel was about a guy named Vaughn. And, you know, in high school, I kind of liked him a bit. And, I went and spoke to him and that sort of thing. And he didn't like me. He had no interest at all. As a matter of fact, he was in a class higher than I was, and he pretended that he actually liked me in the beginning because he was very popular. He was like one of the most popular guys in school, and so Vaughn pretended that he liked this girl, and his intentions for her wasn't good at all. He was just trying to make a fool out of her, trying to make fun of her. But at some point down the line, he eventually got to know who she was within, not necessarily what she looked like, and he fell in love with her. But at the time that he fell in love with her, she had other interests because She figured, well, you don't like me, your intentions were not genuine. So she basically um, had other interests, but Vaughn sort of fought very hard to win her heart, and that's the essence of the story. I think she eventually ended up with Vaughn.
In writing the book, who was your audience? Was it the audience young females, teenagers towards the boy, or a combination of both? Who was your audience, if you had an audience in mind when you started writing, or you were just writing?
Well, I had an audience in mind, and I really, really honestly wanted to target young people, teenagers, or even persons, young adults as well, to let them know that it's really not about what you look like. It's not about what you portray yourself to be. um, we are all loved. We all have special qualities, and to let them know that they should not bring down their self or their level just because somebody else doesn't see them the way they want the person to see them. So my audience really was young, both men and women, or young, teenage boys and girls, because Vaughn's personality was like the typical high schooler personality. He was popular. He think he had it made. He was a rich, spoiled kid, that sort of stuff. But somewhere deep within, um, his parents raised him well, and he remembered some of the attributes of his parents, to be kind, to be patient, to be gentle, to be respectful to another person. And you saw that coming out of Vaughn, even in the midst of what he was trying to portray himself to be. He was trying to portray himself to be this macho man, because I'm very popular. I can get who I want. I can treat people how badly I want. I can bully them. I can have sex with them. I can use them because I am the king of the girls. And Jasmine taught him a different lesson, that you don't have to be like that. You can actually be a good person. You can love somebody. You can treat them kindly. You can be respectful to them. So it basically targeted young people that may be going through that sort of stuff in their lives.
At that age and being a teenager, was there any career path in mind for you?
Yeah.
Or it was just about living life? Which one was it?
No, it wasn't ever about living life, really. I studied in the media at the age of 17. I always knew that I actually wanted to be a media person. I don't know. I don't remember having another job. I've never learned to do anything else. Um, I used to always listen to the radio, listen to the news, try to mimic even international presenters, that sort of thing. I used to do it as a very young child. And I remember during the summer, I was on summer break, and I said, I went to this radio station and I told them I want a job. And they were like, how old are you? I'm like, well, I'm 17. I want a job, a summer job. And they said, well, we have no openings, but if you want, you can help out to pack the CDs and stuff like that. At that time, they use CDs, right? So I said, well, I mean, I don't mind. And so every Saturdays, and it was once a week. So every Saturdays, I used to go to the radio station and help this news announcer, this man. His name is Alvin Knight. He had this top 25 countdown on the Saturdays, and I used to kind of just help him to pack the CDs. My aim wasn't to help him pack CDs, but if that's what they put me to do, then I figured let me just do it. And I used to sit down and I used to look at him, how he managed the consoles, and I used to learn as I'm there packing the CDs, rearranging his CDs back for him. And now and then he would let me say something, maybe just to make me feel like I'm actually doing something. Now and then he would turn on the mic and he said, well, guys, I have company. I have this young lady here with me. Say something. And I would say, hi, everybody, and that kind of stuff. And then one time he got sick and he said he had a flu and he couldn't do the show. So he called me and said, well, I'm not going to do the show. Can you do it? I'm like, can I do what? He said, can you do the show? I'm like, no. He said, but you've been there with me for several weeks. You've been learning the console. You see what I do. I believe you can do it, Shermaine. And I'm like, well, I don't know. He said, okay, try. And if it fail, it fails. And so I was basically baptized by fire, thrown just on air to do the show. And I remembered all the things that I used to see him doing, lining up his CDs according to where the songs come in, writing down the names of the songs, that sort of thing, and what he would sing. And after the show was done, he called me and he said, well, I'm never going to do that show again. This show belongs to you. And so I actually started off at the radio station working once a week on a Saturday. And then I said, well, I had already started college. I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to finish no college. I need to work. I want to be a news producer. I want to do news. I want to be a disc jockey. I want to be an announcer. And I said, well, the college that I was going to be going to in Dominica, they were not offering anything to do with that. So I figured, okay, so too bad for that. And then I decided, well, let me just stick to that. So I used to basically work once a week, and then after a few weeks, they said, "Well, would you like to work in the newsroom?" And I'm like, "Yes, I would like to." And then they put me into the newsroom, and then they said, "Would you like to do this program on a Sunday?" And I said, "Yes." So I started to work 7 days a week, and I never stopped up until now. And I am 41, and I started at 17. So it has always been my career path.
So when you say you never stop, do you still work 7 days a week? Because you just finished the shift, I heard.
Actually, I do. I do. I do
Okay.
it 7 days a week. I mean, apart from just observer, I do a lot of freelance work as well, even for Dominica. I am one of the writers for Dominica News Online, and I do a lot of other freelance work around the Caribbean. So yeah, I actually work 7 days a week. And if there was a 8 day, I'd be working 8 days a week.
Oh, you sound like me. I've been told by my daughter I need a rest, I need a vacation. So I'm
Yeah,
sure you'll be hearing that from your kids very soon.
I'm hearing that a lot. But I just have to keep going because it's what I love to do.
In you, the book is about your some parts of fiction through your teenage life.
Hmm.
Um, do we see another book in future in terms of Jasmine as an adult, being a journalist, achieving her career goals, etc.?
Well, I actually working on Jasmine too, the second edition of Jasmine. So I don't know if it's going to be like a sequel, but I think a lot of people who bought the book were like, well, you left us hanging. We want to know what happened between Jasmine and Vaughn. I mean, did they evolve? What happened with them? So this is something I am definitely gonna have to complete because I promised I would at least get it completed. But I also just completed another novel that I am actually in the process of somebody editing, and hopefully I can have it published. It is called Love is a Hell of a Thing.
Love is hell.
Yeah.
Why do keep hearing like a romance theme throughout your titles and your books?
Yeah, because you see, the thing about it is, as you said rightfully when you began the show, my job is about facts. It's like I can't write a romance a story and air it out as a news item. It's always about facts. It's about politics. It's about murder. It's about criminal stuff, social events, that sort of thing. And sometimes you just want a downtime away from the politics, away from the hard news, away from the real stuff. You're just tired of hearing about Vladimir Putin, and you're tired of hearing about all this stuff. You just want something else, a downtime, something that can make you laugh. I mean, something that can make you cry, something that is in touch with your feelings. Hard news for me is just real facts. Sometimes you want to move away from facts. You don't want to drink water all the time. You want to drink some wine sometimes, if you understand what I'm saying.
Understood,
Yeah.
understood, understood. I'm gathering is writing is a way of escape,
Thank you. You
freeing up
said
your
it
mind
right.
in the form of your therapy. Um, so let's move to the cover of the book.
Mm-hmm.
How did that come about? I know uh, there were some copyright issues you were concerned about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, tell us about the cover of the book.
Well, I had a lot of ideas in mind, and the guy who takes care of my graphics was like, Well, everything we have in mind, you never know. I mean, you really never know whether, let's just say, your book goes global. Somebody wants to turn it into a movie. Somebody figure that you're making some type of money. You could be sued for using so many different things. Because I had, there's sometimes these generic things that you can pull up and whatever. And a friend of mine who's very near and dear to me said, "Why don't you just use your face?" And I'm like, "What? Oh no, 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 no. This is not going on no book nowhere." And he was like, "Shermaine, why don't you just use a photo of yourself? Nobody can sue you over it. It's your photo. There's no copyright issues." And I battled and I battled and I battled and I tossed and I turned and I'm like, no, I don't want to. I don't think I should. Why don't I just use a grain of rice? Jasmine. Why, why don't I just use a flower? The jasmine is a flower as well. You can put a grain of rice. It's still jasmine rice. He's like, no, no, no. I think you should put your face. And he talked me into it. And eventually I just decided, okay, let me just do it. And it didn't turn out too bad after all.
Okay. Um, Being an artist, being an author, and you're blessed with the skill of writing, being able to tell your story through, pen and paper.
Hmm.
But to be successful, there's also the business aspect behind it.
Hmm.
I have encountered a lot of talented people, in my life. And where I find they fall short is the business aspect of things to
Hmm.
transition them to the next level.
Right.
No one knows about your work. How successful are you going to be? I think in the Caribbean we have, Nobel laureates, and that happened because he was able to get his work out there to the wider
Right.
world.
Hmm.
So as a journalist, I know that would put you as at a big advantage in terms of getting your work out there to the media.
Hmm.
But what did you have to learn along this journey of the business aspect of it?
Well, as I said, when I put out Jasmine, I never even thought too much about the money I would be making. I mean, Amazon sends me checks. There's a way that I can tabulate, or I can look at the amount of books that I sold and that sort of stuff. I have sold a lot of books locally as well. Um, and I said to myself, I have slipped up when it comes to marketing. I think I could do a better job in marketing. So, but then if you have to hire somebody to market your book, you're gonna have to. Everything is about money. Nobody does anything for free. So you're gonna have to hire somebody to market your book. You're gonna have to hire for somebody to edit your book, and you come the cost, and you was like, okay, well, like for instance, I found this guy to edit novels, and he said it's like $1,500 just to edit. And when I thought it was the whole book, it was probably like 90 pages. I'm like, what? You know? But then that's his cost, and a lot of people, I mean, everybody is into the making money thing. It's for them, it's all about, I need to get paid for my services, and fair and well. I mean, nothing is free in this world. So when I published the book, I got an editor to edit it for me, and I was in doubt. I was like, "You think that book is gonna sell at all?" In the beginning, it was selling like hot bread, and then persons, it's available in paperback and also in Kindle. And but what I noticed is a lot of the persons who bought my book, they're my friends. And the question is, how do you branch out of, how do you get somebody who doesn't know you to buy your book? It's very hard to cross over. A lot of people are my high school friends, persons who know me and just figure, well, let me just support the cause. But the question is like, how do you get somebody else to see your book? The competition out there is so stiff. I mean, there are millions and millions of authors on the market. It's like a doggy dog race trying to get their book sold. And where does your little book, little girl from the Caribbean, where does your book fit into the Daniel Steels and all these international authors, the Eric Jerome Dickey and these sort of authors that they, I mean, you, I don't know. to be honest, I really don't know. Caribbean authors are suffering um, in terms of finances, having the book sold. I'm specifically dealing with that. And it's like, how do you cross over? If one, probably two Caribbean authors would have crossed over and made it big, what about the rest of us who really just have a genuine story to tell? And that's definitely a struggle. Is something that we really need to examine and look into to see, how do you get out there? How do you go global? How do you not just stay in Antigua or in Dominica or in St. Lucia or in St. Kitts? How do you cross over? And it's very, very hard. It's extremely hard.
Well, we happen to give you this platform in terms of telling about your book, telling about your stories.
Hmm.
Um, I will add to that, the struggle is tough, but you never give up.
Yeah.
Um, there are a lot of book festivals throughout the world. People should be pitching their books to.
Hmm.
Uh, and at the end of the question for me is always opening new doors, knocking on that door, kicking that door down. Because if
Hmm.
we don't, we not going to open a door for the next generation and the next
Yep,
generation.
that is true.
Um, you mentioned about someone taking your book, doing a play and all that stuff, and making
Yeah.
sure it's copyrighted and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Um, are you looking at doing an audio version of your book?
I could. I probably have to get the appropriate links because I'm basically on my own. I do everything on my own, and if I could get a networking or get somebody to help me, maybe that is something we can look into. I could read my own book and have it
Yes, you have
recorded.
the radio voice, so that would
Yes,
be,
so I'm
you
saying
already have a plus up.
I could read my own book, but I'd have to get the help, and that's what I'm hoping to get. Um, the proper networks, the proper training. um, I always look online for training opportunities, workshops, whether it's virtual or whether I would have to travel to go away, that sort of thing, and just to improve my writing skills, really, and find connections, the necessary connections. So even an audio version, because I notice people don't like to read anymore. So a person would probably plug in their headphones and just listen to the audio version. I do that with the Bible a lot because it's so much on my eyes. So I would just listen to the audio version, and I know a lot of people probably want to do that, but I would have to get the proper help, which I don't have right now.
You mentioned, um, we just mentioned about doing plays. Do you see yourself producing a play the same way you produce a news broadcast based on your book?
I want my book to become a movie. I think it's a movie that a lot of people would really love. Based on the feedback I'm getting, person said, "Well, they laugh, they cry, it's an exciting." I mean, and some people would like, "Why isn't this book a movie?" But how are you going to get Netflix to buy your book and turn it into a movie like Shonda? Shonda wrote Bridgerton, and it's a novel. Bridgerton and all the series, they're novels. Shonda picked up the book and she read the book and she loved the book, and the book is now a movie on Netflix. And I mean, how as a Caribbean author, how do you get that opportunity? I don't know, but definitely I would like my book to be a play, or even a no, what you say, maybe a series, or even a movie, something for
A
teenagers,
short
or yeah, that sort of thing.
Well, I wanted to pause for a second to shout out the Brooklyn Public Library. Um, One of the challenges authors of, immigrants, black authors have is getting their books in mainstream outlets such as, the public library.
Right.
And they came to us, I think, during the pandemic and liked the program that we've been doing in partnership with Barnes and Noble, and
Hmm.
wanted to create a list of Caribbean authors where they could purchase the book to be in their collection. So, their clients could, now check out your book, and now we could start building stats on how many people is actually reading that book. Um, I have learned
Interesting.
in this country a lot of things is based on numbers, not actually dollars and cents.
Yeah.
But how many people read the book? How many people purchase the book? Whether it's how many checked out, where they're not really paying for it, and
Hmm.
then from that, the momentum is built and understanding the system. And
Yeah.
we are going to partner with them in terms of how do we connect with different authors to get their books into the right channels where the right set of people could see it, etc. And we move forward. So I wanted to just shout out the Brooklyn Public Library for that partnership they want to develop with us, which your book is also going to be part of what we're going to be sending to them also.
Thank you. Great.
So, there's a lot of things on the horizon. If you ever need any assistance or let people know you have a book out there and if your new book or your documentary or anything is out, Tropical Fit is here. The platform is created, for artists focused on Caribbean culture. And anytime we could push our people, that's our job, that's our mission, that's our obligation.
Great stuff.
Um, so, two questions I have for you before we end with you. What would you want your readers to take from this interview and the book? And for those who have not gotten the book, where do they go and get the book?
Okay, so the book is available on Amazon. Some people have asked me, persons without an Amazon account have asked me to bring it in for them. It will soon be available in Dominica at the Jay's bookstore, and it will soon be available at local bookstores in Antigua and Barbuda. But for the rest of the world, they can get it on Amazon. For some people who've reached out to me and asked me if they could get a copy because they don't have an Amazon account or they don't have Prime, I would just order it for them and then sell it to them. Um, what do I want people to take from this book? I love people to have their own opinions, but I would definitely say um, give young authors a chance by supporting them. A lot of people are not into romance novels, and a lot of people are. It's not heavy romance, but it has a lot to do, as I said, with real life experiences that a number of people have called and said, I was just like that in high school, up and down, don't know what I want before I found myself, before I found out exactly my purpose. And I believe that there's not enough support for young aspiring authors, persons. There's not enough training. There's not enough assistance. A lot of people are so talented. So many young people have books out there, and we know nothing about it. I think that just like the Americans support the authors, I don't think that there's enough support for authors in the Caribbean by their own people. So that is what I'll say.
All right. So I want to, thank you for joining us. And I know this is your first time, hopefully not your last.
Hopefully.
And it was a pleasure. And would
Same
like to
here.
encourage everyone to buy the book, support our people. That's how we grow and build an empire.
Thank you very much for having me today.
Uh,